Okay. It stopped. Okay. Test, test. Good, I can still hear myself. Test, test. Test. Yo, guys. I gotta use the bathroom. I've been trying all morning to get this song out of my head. It's driving me crazy. Actually, this song, I have another song that's popping, that's floating around my head, but at least I laid down the basic ideas of it. This really sounds weird. There we go. So right now, what I usually do is I usually flesh it out enough to where I can't forget it. You know what I mean? Wait. This is there we go. Test, test, test. That sounds better. Test, test. Yeah, that sounds better. Okay. I was wondering why that mic wasn't sounding good. Test. Oh, there we go. This does sound nice. Wow. Okay. I was gonna say this Neumann sucks. Pay a lot of money for it, and it sucks. But it actually sounds good. Okay, I'm going to play this again. Man, I gotta use the bathroom. I got double load. So you can't hear yourself. Test. Oh, you can hear yourself. Oh, we're in luck. I can record this stuff live. Wait a minute. Hold on. Wait a minute. If I can do that, how about this? Turn this down. No feedback. Test. Nope, doesn't work that way. Oh well. I'll figure out a way. I'll figure out a way. Hey. I'll figure it out a way. I'll figure out a way. Hey. I'll figure out a way. Hey. I'll figure out a way. I'll figure out a way. I'm blind in the back and I need my glasses. I'll figure out a way. I gotta hit the James Brown one. It's kind of dope. Tell me this morning. If you were here this morning, this is what I was cooking up. Might have been a little boring to you, but had you gotten over the boredom and stuck around, I would have showed you the whole process. I'm gonna like spice it up and upload it anyway. I filmed the bass when I would play the bass. I filmed the foundation of what this actually became, and I'm going to record the drums. But I really gotta take a dump, so I will be right. So in the meantime, I will leave you to listen to some good music and either look at my little baby alligator right there, or you could look at this while I use the bathroom. Since I'm going to be there in a couple minutes after I drop the kids off at the pool, I'll be right back. I look tired. Really tired. I gotta go outside. Test. I gotta go outside. What's that weird? I don't hear it. Just stopped. Just started. Is that on my side? There it is. There it is. That works a little better. That's that crackle. This has like bad insulation. Look at this. That needs to be taped up. That's horrible insulation. Any electrical tape. Yeah, it's this. It's that right there. It's bad shielding.
weird short. No, it's not a weird short. I can still hear it, but it's better. I can still hear it. I don't. My. I hear everything, and I can hear a. Hold on. It's not that. Yeah, I knew it wasn't that. That's all clean. That's clean audio. Those are pristine pre's. So. Oh, 18 to 29. That's a crazy age. Um, but my wife is in a meeting. There we go. Let me use this. Oh, there we go. My wife's in a meeting, so I'm going to convene for now and come back in about an hour and probably shed. But you got to see some of the things. I don't just sit and play drums. I also play bass. I play guitar. I produce. I got an organ right there. Um, I do everything. Hey, his wife. That is so dope. He's got his. I'm I, I'm a fan. Well, I guess I'm a fan. I'm not. I'm past the. Well, you. Why you glazing? I'm past that in my life. I'm a fan of this guy named Brad. Bad Brad. He's probably like 3 years younger than me, but he's been through a lot, and he's been through the LA music scene. I was in New York and New Jersey music scene, and then moved to Georgia and Atlanta music scene. I always wanted to go out to LA. I went out to LA for like little spot gigs, but never to check out the music scene. But this guy Brad, there's a point in time where the Sunset Strip was like that's where we wanted to go. I've been in the Sunset Strip like countless times, but there's a difference between going to the Sunset Strip and living in LA trying to get gigs hanging out on the Sunset Strip, because you could that's generally what you can do. You go from place to place, from bar to bar. You go across the street, you know, make sure you had your demo, you know, your cassette. I'm dating myself. Make sure you had your cassette, you know. I always had demos. I had band demos, whatever band I was in, I had band demos. But I also had my own stuff, because I've been in situations. If you're a professional musician, there's ways to do it. Even though the music, I've been saying this for a while. The music business is in a slump. Yeah, I understand that. It's been in a slump before. It's been in a slump before. Test. Why is it lower? Test. It's been in a slump before, and that's weird. And the people who survived were actual musicians, not people trying to hustle for a come up. That always happens whenever there's an explosion of something. The money grubbers go in, and they kind of ruin everything. It's not just music; it's everything else. It's the whole gold rush thing. It's the gold. I call it the gold rush effect, because it happens every time there's some kind of, like, it was like the .com thing, and then the greedy people came in, and it basically saturated everything, and it went bust. And the only people who really are making money now are the people who survived that and stuck around. This is no different, you know. Um, Plus, I have the benefit of hindsight. I've lived a pretty long life. You know, I look young, but I've lived a pretty long life, and I've seen ups and downs. You know, the way you survive it is you learn a new skill. You know, you lean on other things. What are you? Are you just a drummer? Are you just a bass player? Are you just a guitarist? Are you just like what do you do? Like what else do you do? When your job is done, let me tell you something. When I came down here, I was doing bass gigs for years. Nobody knew I played drums. Nobody knew I played drums. I was doing gospel, R&B, neo soul. I was doing bass gigs. I was playing bass in church. You know what I mean? And it wasn't until, you know, I just, but the opportunity presented itself for me to play drums, and then people were like, "Holy smokes, you, you like one girl? She was a ridiculous singer. Her and her husband, they both were ridiculous singers. But um, what happened is they she comes up to me and she's like, she sees me playing the music director's drum set because the musical director, the MD, was the drummer. Um, she sees me playing the set. He knew I played drums. Matter of fact, he used to steal my licks. Um, but I didn't care. I used to show him stuff. I used to show him little tricks and stuff because he used to pick my brain because I'm left-handed playing on a right-handed kit. So he would pick my brain like, how do you do this? How do you do that? Blah 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 blah. So I started playing drums in Atlanta by the musical director going back to school to get his master's, and I had to play drums. And the other bass player, he had to start playing bass. I took his place. Well, I took the first bass player's place because he moved to New Orleans, and they didn't have another bass player, and they knew I played guitar, bass, drums, and piano. So, and I had given everything up. Um, and the preacher was like, "I think you should start playing again." And I was like, "I don't want to start playing again. And even if I do, I don't want to play gospel music. I can appreciate it, like I can appreciate the message, but the music all sounds the same to me." I've since like learned to love it. I love gospel music now, but back then I was coming from jazz and rock and a completely different field, you know. And to me, it all sounded the same. So, and he was like straight up, like, "Look, um, God doesn't want you to give up your music. You know, God wants you to use your music. And yeah, you don't like gospel music, but people in bars and clubs and all these places, they need Jesus too. They need to see Jesus living and active in your life as well. So you can't, and I thought about it, and the Bible talks about be in the world, not of the world. You're not supposed to cloister yourself away. You're supposed to be out in the public and be an example. You're supposed to be a light on a hill. That's what you're supposed to be. You're supposed to be, you know what I mean? And, there's different passages in the Bible. When he told me that, I thought of this scripture where it says, Jesus, he was giving a parable. He said, yo, this rich dude, he had a bunch of servants, and he picked these three servants. He said, I'm going to give you 5 pieces of coin. The Bible says talent. No coincidence. Because a talent is a Roman unit of monetary measure. He gave this servant 5, gave another servant 2, gave another servant 1. He went gone, just left. Left them in charge and the other servants, but them mainly. They came back. Then he came back. He said, "All right, what's up, y'all? What's up, my money? What you do with it?" You know, the dude had 5. He ain't even ask him. He ain't ask permission to spend his money. He was just, "Look, I flipped your money. You gave me 5. I flipped it to 5." He's like, "Yo, that's good work. You know what? I can really trust you. Just for that, you can keep all that." So then he went to the other dude. He said, "Yo, what you got? What's up with my money?" Dude was like, "Yo, he ain't asking me." He's like, "Look, I know I ain't asked you, but whatever, man. I flipped your money. I know you gave me 2. I'll give you back 4." He was like, "Oh snap, yo 2, man. Look." Keep all that. He said, so he went to the one that had one. He said, what you got to say for yourself, boy? What's up? What's up, homie? Where my money? And dude was like, hey, man, I know you scared. So I just, Bible says he buried it. But, I'm just putting today's swing on it. I know you was scared, but I put it in the stash spot. I ain't really do nothing with it. You know, he said, I know you're a hustler and you really respect hustlers. So, and you're a shrewd businessman. So I ain't want to lose your money. I was scared. So, and the master said, you wicked and lazy servant. You could have stuck it in the bank. The Bible says that. You could have stuck it in the bank and let it gain interest, but instead you sat on it. Get out of here. He said, and he took his money and gave it to the one who had five. And I said, I will not bury my talent. And I'm thinking about all this after he's telling me this. And then, no, he tells me that, and he also tells me I need to prepare for marriage. But after he tells me those two things, I'm thinking about that as I walk away. And the scripture pops in my head. And then my boy Q, he's a lawyer now, but he's also a producer. He not only he's just not a beat maker, he's a producer. He's worked in studios and stuff, but he's a lawyer now. He came to me. I was actually at a show. I was doing security at the Roxy in Atlanta, in Buckhead. The church I belong to, they were having a concert out there. Um, the church I have, they got albums out and everything, you know, all that stuff. Like my boy Q actually wrote songs for them. My boy Q did, Levi and Michelle, they did, a bunch of people. They want me to write songs, so I got stuff. Actually, I wrote the theme song for the church. I forgot about that. So, it's called Wishes. It's on all streaming platforms, whatever. But uh, um, what was I talking? What was I talking about? Dang. This is the sucky thing about this, because if somebody was sitting there, they'd be like, "You said blah blah blah," you know. Um, but anyway, it'll pop in my head. But yeah, man. Oh, I know what I was talking about. But yeah, my boy Q, he introduced. He said, you know, why aren't you playing music? We had that discussion. Then he goes, you know what, man? He goes, you need to prepare for marriage. I'm like, what? I said, yeah, man. You need to work on your character, work on who you are, prepare yourself for marriage. I said, okay. I knew something was happening. And I didn't know what. And he walked away. And my boy Q walked up to me with this girl. And he said, yo, this is so and so and such as this Miss Baba Ba. I'm like, hello, Miss Baba Ba. You know? And Miss Baba Ba was a serious corporate. She worked in corporate America. At the time, I had moved down here. I was working at People Ready, day labor. I was dead broke, you know. But I'm talking to Miss Baba Ba. She seemed pretty nice. So, okay, how you doing? My name's Mark. She introduced herself. It's okay. Make small talk. I'd walk away. Um, I'm talking to one of the other bouncers, and that's the end of that. The next day, my preacher came to my doorstep with a brand new bass. He said, "You're playing in church from now on." And from then on, I was playing in church, and that led me to playing in neo soul gigs and gospel gigs and all of that. And they used to have a TV station here in Atlanta. I played on there a bunch of times. Um, it was like a Christian station. I can't remember the name of it. Oh man, I can't remember the name of it. I played on it a couple times, and I did like a gospel festival that B103. Oh no, that was a different gig. That gig was a bass gig that turned into a that connected me to a drum gig. So that was something completely different. Um, but I did a lot of stuff playing bass, and nobody even knew I played drums, you know. And I always get the, well, why didn't you say anything? I'm like, what am I gonna? Hey, my name's Mark. I play drums. I don't like that. I never really kind of led with that. I lead with that on here because this channel is about drums and about my journey with drums and what I can share and what I've learned and the stuff that I don't believe that you learn stuff for yourself to just sit and pontificate to yourself. You learn stuff for other people. You learn stuff to share it. You know what I mean? That is your job. That's the problem with music. That's, you know what I mean? That's especially, I love all music. I've played in punk bands, I've played in metal bands, all kinds of, you know. I played in country bands. Country's my favorite, man. Ah, I love country. I really, really do. I love country music. Um, but I mean, I love jazz. I love everything. I love country music, man. I do. I love country music. Um, and like, I just like the traditions of country. I like everything, man. I like everything about country music, man. Everything, I really do. Even the alternative country. You know, and it's wild because black folks are now on this country tip. I've been on a country tip since all my life, to be honest. You know, I was listening to everything. You know, I used to watch Hee Haw. I watched Hee Haw. My whole family watched Hee Haw. I'm telling you, man, I love country music, and I know hip hop, and I know electronic music, and I know jazz, and I know rock. I have a deep encyclopedic knowledge of rock. Um, but I love country. You know, um, I love country about as much as I love jazz. Jazz and rock, I love them kind of the same. I kind of bounce between the two, but so I put them as the same. But I almost love them. I almost love country. I probably love them all three equally as well. Classical. I like some classical. I actually have classical pieces. I have baroque pieces. I have chamber pieces. I have orchestral pieces. I have big band pieces. I have jazz trio pieces. I've got jazz organ trio. I've got bass, piano, and drums trios. Then I have an organ trio where the organist is playing the bass line, and we have a guitarist and me on drums. You know what I mean? So I got all kinds of stuff. I got all kinds of music. You know, I got stuff for commercials, everything. I got stuff. I'm working on film. Well, film score stuff is kind of. I used to work maintenance. I used to work apartment maintenance, and the apartment. I always worked in. I've worked in A plus plus, brand new. Like literally brand new. Like to Roach Motels. Well, I never worked in a motel, but the complex was a Roach Motel. To I've worked in apartment complexes that were built the same year I was born. That's crazy. Um, so I've been in all phases. I've done industrial stuff, all kinds of construction. Um, oh dang, I lost my focus looking at this guy. Oh, dang, I hate that. I hate that, y'all. It just flew right out like a little birdie. You know. But I don't know. I'll remember it just like I did last time. Um, but yeah, man. I started learning other instruments out of necessity. I started playing drums. I say this all the time because I lied. I lied to my friends and said I could play drums, and I had to learn how to play drums to keep up the lie. I'm still keeping up the lie. You know, I started off playing guitar, and then I went to piano. I went Stevie Wonder crazy, got into Herbie Hancock and all that stuff. You know, and then by the time I was like 13, this dude Ronnie Cockamanzati and Darren Rourke, he was a guitarist. He switched to bass and became. He's just as sick as Flea. He's like a mix of Flea and Steve Harris. Like this dude is sick. Um, but like he really is. He's a mix of like Flea and Steve Harris, and he plays a Rickenbacker. Crazy, yeah. So he doesn't have that Getty Lee tone. He's got his own tone. But but yeah, man, my man was sitting there. They had a drum. Darren, Ronnie Cockermanzadi, and what's this guy's name? Charlie Malik. Um, and Dave DeSantis lived across the street, and he had his band Chronic Sick. And then what's his name? Mark DiGirolamo? Is that his name? It wasn't Carmine. I know two Carmine DiGirolamos. Um, Dang, I can't remember. But yeah, Ronnie Cockermazzotti was playing drums. They were in a Zeppelin cover band, and Ron was so dope. He was like the center. Everybody's like, "Yo, Ron is dope," and I was like, y'all, like I look like Steve Urkel with bad skin back then. Y'all could probably imagine. I like Steve Urkel with bad skin. I was horrible looking. Buck teeth, braces. You know what I mean? All that stuff. You know, pimple face, didn't know how to dress. You know, needed a haircut. I was a mess. But I was into music and I really didn't care. I was a nerd, blah, blah, blah. So I wanted to be cool. I was desperate to be cool. So I said, I could play drums. They were like, bro, you can play? I said, yeah, I could play. I don't know if I bragged, but I definitely lied and told everybody. I was like maybe 13. I was 12. I was 12 or 13. I definitely lied. I lied. I was lying for my teeth. Lying. Never put a hand on the drum. Nothing. That's nothing. It's all guitar and piano. So I was so afraid to face the social humiliation of being caught in a lie. I went home and I got some Tupperware bowls and I got, the hangers I raided my mom's closet, and the hangers with the wooden thing on the bottom. I took it off so I could have the wooden thing on the bottom. And those are my drums. They're kind of like timbali sticks, timbali sticks actually. But I use those, and I use Tupperware bowls, um, and boxes. It's just like ding, 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 you know. And I would listen to Rush and all of that stuff. Limelight. That was the first song I ever learned. Limelight. Um, and then the second song I ever learned was Carn Evil Number 9 by Emerson, Lake and Palmer. Listen to that song and listen to what Carl Palmer is doing. He's pretty much playing a drum solo the entire song. I learned that song, and I was like maybe by then I was like maybe 13. That's how obsessed I was of not being socially embarrassed. I was voraciously learning stuff. You know what I mean? Um, I had a trick. You know those long component sets? this is when everybody was starting to throw them away. And I knew that those components, I knew that if I could take something and slow it down from, you got 40, you got 45, you got 78, you got 45, you got 33, and then you got like 17 and a third or something like that. It's slower. Um, but what happened is I saw one. I saw it. I don't know how I saw one, a turntable like that, but I was like maybe 15, and I saw one. Somebody was throwing it out, and I was walking by, and I saw it had the 17. It was on a curb next to the garbage can or whatnot. And it was all dusty and old and whatnot. I was like, I wonder if it works. And it was probably like a block and a half from my house, and it was a long block and a half too. Um, I was too embarrassed to pick it up out the trash and take it home in the daytime. So I went home and woke up at about 8:30 when it was kind of dark, and went out and picked that big old thing up. And at the time, the dude whose house it was, he walked out, and I was like, "Oh." He's like, "Man, you gonna carry that with me? What you want that piece of junk for?" I said, "For that," and I pointed it at this low thing. He was like, "Where you live?" I was like, "Right up there, 254 Rockwell Avenue." He's like, "I'll give you a ride." I was like, "All right." And he had a cutlass, and we jimmied that joint in the back seat, and it was hanging out like that. And he ain't even bother. It was like, it's a block and a half, you know. But I was willing to huff it. He gave me a ride. I took it home. He didn't come to my house. I was like, I don't know you. Cool. I don't know you. But I took it home, and then I had a dolly, you know, and I stuck it on the dolly. I can't remember how I got that. I think my uncle had it. I stuck it on a dolly and brought it downstairs in my basement, and it worked, you know. So I would take Billy Cobham albums and Rush albums. I would take those albums, stick them on there, and put it on 17 in the third, and it would slow down everything they were doing. And I would learn everything and write it all down and practice it until I got it up to speed. And that's how I got all the chops that I have. That's how I got like everything. I did it for so many years. That was my secret weapon. I used to and I kept that thing until they had the cassettes that you could kind of slow down. They used to sell them at Guitars. No, not Guitar Center. Sam Ash. They used to sell them at Sam Ash. This was before Guitar Center. They used to sell them at Sam Ash, and they had another music store, Manny's Music too. Um, they had Manny's Music. They had Sam Ash, and then they had another one. Man, I can't remember the name of it. Up in Edison, New Jersey. But once they got them, then I mean everybody started kind of get hip to it. But that was the move. I'm telling you, I would take elaborate, intricate drum solos and learn. Like Billy Cobb, he plays like he'll give you the song will be like 6 minutes, 3 minutes of it will be his drum solo. Like you know, um, and he played like he was on some never repeat. Every time I play a solo, like I have a I have my basic vocabulary, but I'm going to unveil something new and different every time. And he did that the entire time he has ever played drums. I'm talking about Billy Cobb. You know, um, that's the level I'm trying to get to. You know, that's why I study guys like that. I like guys who are highly improvisational. You know, I you know, it there's a there's a freedom in being able to play stuff at a high level, but it sounds like you play it every night because nobody knows if you're playing a part or not. Nobody knows. You know what I mean? If it's played cleanly, they're gonna be like, "Oh, well, that's a part." If you say, "Oh, I improvise all that," they're like, "What? Holy smokes!" Because it sounds so clean. It sounds like, "Oh, he meant to do that." You know? And there's a freedom in that. You can do what you want. You know? And people be like, "That's cool. Sounded like it was supposed to be there." You know? So, but I've I think one of the biggest things I've learned about playing drums is play softly. You know, play softly, um, because it forces you to use your fingers and your hands. You know, instead of your wrists and your elbows. I did that for years and and blew out my wrists and elbows. Which the only reason why I'm still able to play is I use all fingers now. You know, I switch to fingers. I can play faster. I can play longer. You know, more articulation, less effort, more relaxed. Relaxed at a point where, like, once you get to a certain level and playing with your hands, playing, with your sticks, um, it's not about playing, it's not about getting fast. It's about, I say this all the time, it's about controlling the speed. Um, that's when it, because you can, once you build speed, you just got speed. Whether you're playing halves, quarters, eighths, 16, 30 seconds, 64ths, you know, 100, what's the next? 130 seconds? Like, what it doesn't, speed is speed, you know. Speed is easily attainable. Control is hard. That's that's the really difficult thing, you know. That's why when guys you see them practicing, they're like, you see them playing parts. They sound great because they practice those parts every day. But say, oh, don't play parts. Don't play parts. Improvise everything. But I don't want to hear no mess ups. It better be clean. It better be nice. They can't do it, you know. And I say that because I was one of those guys. For years I was one of those guys. I worked on improvising, like literally do what I do on stream: sit and improvise, sit and improvise, sit. Parts are easy, bro. I could play parts. Like my limbs can just go on autopilot. I'll sit there with the chart in my face and just be like, you know what I mean? That's parts are easy. Now sit with a chart in your face and put your own stank on it. That's something different. You know what I mean? Like now because the band director is gonna hear if you're playing some like, oh man, like man. So a lot of times in terms of, I don't like to hear, don't give me, I'd rather hear like whatever, if it's saxophone or whatever, I want to hear, give me the charts for the main instrument, the chord structure, really the chord structure, the time signature and the chord structure. That's all I need. Time signature, chord structure. Anything that's like a little obscure. Um, if you can write out the chords with the accents, that's fine. Um, that's really it. Just write out the chords with all the accents. Give me a time signature, and I'm good. You know. Um, but improvising over that is hard. You know. Um, I can, but not. It's another limb. You know. It's literally another limb. You know, sight reading. You know, is like, especially if you don't like. I don't really use it a lot as much as I used to, because nowadays when people want you to play stuff, they'll send you the MP3. They email you a bunch of files, or if they, really, they email you, really, like, Joe can Bluetooth it. I'm like, all right, oh, here it is, whatever. Bluetooth it to my phone, and then I'll listen to it and whatever. I'll listen to it right out the charts and stuff like that. You know, and even then, like now, I've just been doing this so long. I don't even write out the charts. I can just hear it and be like, oh, okay, I know what to do. Um, Songs are like blocks to me. They're like colored blocks. They're like blocks that have certain color, and I know what to play to them. So I don't mind me, y'all. Just this is new. This whole talking and oh, this is new. I look at YouTube a lot, and I find myself looking at YouTube a lot. And I see a lot of these. What's popping up is a lot of these women teaching men how to pick up women. I don't know, man. What is going on? I guess I don't know. Just talk to them. I've never had a problem, with women. Like I've never. Like I'm usually the one that's like, I'm good, and I'm not like the most handsome dude. You know, I was, when I had hair, it was a little different. I had dreads and whatever. Um, but I don't know, man. You know, and I'm not like to sleep with a lot of. I wasn't. It was complicated with me, man. I was always dedicated to music, um, but I never had serious relationships with women because music was always my mistress, and I let them know like, yo, we cool, but if you catch feelings, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I, you know who I am. You know what I do. I'm a musician. This is my first love. I'm not. When you leave, music's still gonna be here. So, I mean, no offense. You know. Matter of fact, I got to a point where I would just kind of lead with that. You know, before we go any further, like this is what it is. You know, take it or leave it. And I never had anybody. I had somebody leave it, and she came back and took it, and she got emotional. But I've never had them leave it. You know, most women, you be honest with them, whatever. But um, I don't know, man. It was always music. I never wanted to. I was into money and music. You know what I mean? Like I've had somebody say, "You'd be a good pimp." I'm like, "Why?" They're like, "Because you're not into women. You don't chase women. You chase money and whatever you do." I'm like, thanks. Not really. You know what I mean? So yeah, that was weird. Um, but I get his point. I'm not when if you're like always chasing women, that's expensive. You know, um, but more than that, I didn't want to give a woman an like I don't want her thinking something that you know she's expecting one thing and then you're like, look, I love music. I think I don't know, man. I just think you should lead with who like you are. And even in that, man, I'm gonna be real. I regretted it. I regret it. You know, sleeping around. I regret it, man. You know, And I wasn't. I ain't really like this dudes. I know that. Whew, them jokers got some mileage, but I'm like average, and I regret it, man. I regret it. Once I met my wife, I was like, oh, I was like, dang, you know, you really do feel like, man, I gave away what was rightfully hers because I was like, this is my soulmate. She felt the same way about me. She was like, you know, he's my soulmate. You know what I mean? So once you have that agreement, it's like, dang, man. Because to be honest, man, every time I swore off women after a while. It's not, I was just with women because for me, I was like, well, I guess that's what dudes are supposed to do, chase women, you know? But that's not really what I slept with them if the opportunity came. A couple times I would sleep with them because I don't want my boys being like, yo, man, what happened? And eventually they was like, yo, man, what happened? And I was like, I just don't want to sleep with this chick. And they really didn't understand it. And really the thing is, I just wasn't into premarital sex. You know, the one girlfriend I had, I cheated on her one time and felt so bad I told her. You know what I mean? Like I told her. The other chick I cheated, well, it was two chicks really. The first chick, I told her and I broke up with her. The second chick, I told her, we had to understand it. I told her, she was like, oh, I cheated on you too. I was like, oh, okay, well, whatever. We even. You know, I no hard feelings, whatever. You know, um, but I never got it. I just never, because I got family members, and I saw how their actions affected their spouses. You know, and I was like, I was like, if I ever get married, I don't ever want to put a woman through that. You know what I mean? I don't ever want to put a woman through the heartache because she's in love with you, and all of a sudden you cheat and you running around. It's like she opened herself up to you, and you treating it like the fridge. You know what I mean? Um, so I just never. For me, I was like, if it ain't a woman that I plan on marrying, then I don't want to do it. And I ain't seen no marriage material around. And it wasn't like I was surrounded by scallywags. I just didn't see marriage material around. I know girls that were good friends. I just, you better as a friend. Not even like with benefits. I don't want no benefits. I don't need no benefits. Do I like you? Do I like being around you? Like, can I just sit there and kick it with you? Or are you gonna be extra and like, nah, man? Are you? Do you have my best interests at heart? You know what I mean? Are you looking for me to be the answer for every single thing and every single problem you have? I am not the answer to your problems. You need Jesus. You don't need me. Straight up. You know what I mean? That's why I wanted a woman who loved God more than she loved me. You know? So, man, it was wild. Whoa. And it was wild because when my wife, when I met my wife, I first met her, it was like, whatever, Miss blah, blah, blah. And then, I don't know what happened. I saw her another time. It was this other chick named Judith. And Judith was, it does, well, I already said her name. You know, Judith was, she was another option. Well, she was another option, but uh-uh, it wasn't popping for me. Not with her. We cool, but she just wasn't my type. Just no. And I had a lot of options actually. I had a lot of options. That wasn't my thing at the time. I'm talking about when I moved down here. I had a lot of options. A lot of options. You know. But just have been in the dating field, and I really wasn't even in the dating field. I was just watching. I was for a lot of years. It was me and a crew of dudes, Ronnie, Travis, Sean. We were kind of like hired guns who decided to band together and form like a group. Kind of like the Motown. What's those guys in Motown? The Funk Brothers. Kind of like that. Um, so I was just really doing. It was just I was involved in that, and women came and went in our lives. It was just us four as a unit. Um, we lived in a giant 5 bedroom house, a spare bedroom that we used as a rehearsal area, and yeah. Um, but um, I oh man, dang. But so yeah, I was that's all I was. I dealt with women, but I wasn't really So in terms of women, I was like, I could have, being honest, I could have ran through some chicks, but I didn't want to do that. I Nah, man, that's not me. That's not me. That's not my cup of tea. You know, that's babies, child support, and STDs. I ain't got time for that. You know what I mean? I just see things. I don't. I wasn't born in that. I don't want to raise a kid in that. You know what I mean? Um, so I resigned myself to just. I'm just gonna be single. You know, I was cool. I was cool with it. And then something said she's out there. I was like, what? There was a big rush that came over me. Said she's out there. So I wrote a letter to her and I put the date on it. And Miss Anonymous. It was a love letter to Miss Anonymous. Said whoever you are out there. I wrote it, dated it, put it in an envelope. Boom. Then years go by. Fast this that I wrote that letter when I was in Jersey. Fast forward, I moved to Georgia. I still got the letter. Um, in Jersey, I wrote that letter, and I wrote the list of the perfect woman. I wrote it while I was smoking a blunt. I wrote the list of the perfect woman. I was wild. I hadn't come to Christ yet, but something told me to write a list. And something told me to write a letter to Miss Blah Blah Blah. I didn't know she was at the time. So I moved down here to ATL. I just wake up, get tired of the way I'm living my life. Well, I gave up music. Then I moved down here. I was going to go to start Charles Stanley Church. Um, and I got met by a brother. I ended up joining their church. I got baptized, studied the Bible, did all that stuff. A lot of this, I was ready. I was ready. Um, so then after that, and so that's a crazy story the way I got met. But after that, like maybe 6 months after that, 3 months, 3 months after that, yeah, 3 months after that, I got introduced to Miss Blah 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 at the Roxy. Um, After Mike Pope is like, you need to prepare for marriage, he walks away. Q comes up. I know that, hey man, there's a girl I want you to introduce you to. So he introduced me to this blah blah blah. Um, I didn't know at the end. On first date, I took her to the Atlanta Botanical Gardens on a New Year's date. It was a big New Year's party. A lot of my friends were going there. Like there was dudes, I know dudes who were like Outcast affiliates or Dungeon Family affiliates and all that stuff. They used to. It's a big crew. Like my wife, she went to school down here, and she remembers um, Goody Mob, Outcast, all them dudes just being out there, just in the community. It wasn't like, oh, they're stars. They were just like everywhere. Like, even like, well, later on, I would see like Ti and Usher and stuff like that. Like, it's like regular, Thug. It's like regular, you know. Gunna. You see, it's still kind of like that. You just jokers. Oof, I was about to say something. Jokers to be out and about, but there was this big New Year's party there, and my man was like, his name was Jerome. He was like, Rome. He was like, Mark, who you taking? I was like, I don't know. He said, Judith. She's one to think about. I said, okay. So then, my boy Q said, yo, you take it to the dance. I said, I don't know. So I'm thinking of Judith. I ain't tell him that. Judith, she pops in my head. I'm like, hmm. I thought about saying it, but I ain't committing nothing to her. And I was like, nah. So, nah. You know, not for me. It's not that, and she was beautiful. Beautiful woman. It just, I don't know, man. It just didn't, there was no, you know, there was just no, it just wasn't me, you know. And I think you get to a certain point in life, where you don't want to have like just mindless sex because you got to talk to them. You know what I mean? You got to talk, you know. So like and not only that, but I swore off sex. I was living celibate, so it makes you more clear headed. You know, I have been celibate for years, man. I have been celibate before I became a Christian. You know what I mean? It makes you clear headed. You know, and it was by choice. And sometimes it was kind of hard because I had the approachments. I had man, I had bosses, and a lady hired me just because she wanted to have sex with me. That's how I got into maintenance. She hired me as a grounds person because she wanted to sleep with me. Like that's like for real. That's how crazy it was. When I moved down here, it was crazy. Atlanta was wild, but I came down here, you know, and then I got introduced to my wife. Atlanta Botanical Gardens. We go there, and I oh the way I just like I'm just a business dude. I'm like real. If I don't really know you like that, we cool, But I don't know you, man, woman. I don't care how fine you are. If I don't know you, I'm just not like. I keep it cordial. I keep it business. I keep it civil. But I don't really know you. I don't know you. I'm sorry. I don't know you. Maybe it's because I'm like very shy, but I'm not impressed by like I don't. If I don't know you, man, I don't care how fine you are, man. I'm not gonna be in your face, man. You know. And I find it disingenuous to be in somebody's face when you don't even know them. I don't care how they look. I don't care how pretty they are. I don't know you like that. Your breath might stink. You might be the worst person. Like I just don't know you like that. But um, I talked to him such and such. I was like, "How you doing? My name's Smart." Not like that. But, how you doing? Like that. How you doing? My name's Smart. You know, would you like to go to the New Year's dance? The New Year's party? The dance. The New Year's party? At the Atlanta Botanical Gardens? She said, sure. I said, okay, well, can I have your number? She goes, sure. I said, okay. So we exchanged numbers. And then I walk away, and Judith is standing right there. I said, well, she didn't see the exchange, but I walked this way, you know, and I literally shook Miss Blah Blah Blah's hands, you know. I was like, Okay, thank you. I'll give you a call. You know, you know. And I walk away. I pick up my briefcase. I walk away. I hit the corner. Miss blah 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 there. I mean, Judith is there, and I know she's waiting for me to ask, but too late. I already asked somebody. I made my decision. Mm. And this was crazy. My boy Brian, my boy Brian Ozim, he's from Nigeria. My boy, like he saved my life. He was asking me, "Yo, bro, will you take it to the dance?" I was like, "I don't know." And in my mind, I said, "The first one I see is the first one I'm taking between the two." Um, so I walked around the corner. It was like, eh, it's a joke. It's like chocolate versus, it's like chocolate versus butter pecan. Yeah, that was my choice. It's chocolate versus butter pecan. Ah, sorry about that, guys. But yeah, I'm like chocolate versus pecan. I was like, I've always liked chocolate. I've always preferred chocolate. And this blah 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 is chocolate. And she was the first one anyway. I don't know, man. Oof. That was, well, I know what that was. But I took her on a date. The first date, um, it was wild. She goes, we were just talking about crazy stuff. I said, you know what? She was like, where you from? Oh, I start talking about like math and numbers and stuff, and the relation to them, and I kind of see numbers and pattern, and like music comes a little easier for me than most because it's all numbers. I didn't tell her that because I had quit music, but I was just talking about just making small talk and blah 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 blah. We got on a subject of college, and she was like, "I hate math," and I was like, "Well, math is easy for me because I see patterns and numbers, and I see numbers and patterns. Just I just they all I see the interrelational patterns. Like I can see them. It's just weird. Um, um, but she's like, "Where did you study?" I was like, "Prison." um, because when I went to jail, man, I went to jail for some nefarious activity, illegal activity, illegal street pharmacology. You know, that's a lot of stuff. The stuff I should have been. I had my hands in everything, guns, everything. Like I had my hands in everything. Um, drug trafficking. I should have gotten life. For a while. I was robbing drug dealers. Me and my boy. I ain't gonna tell him. I was robbing drug dealers, and then for a while I was just pulling stick ups with another one of my partners. Um, and that was a bad time for me. You don't realize the depths of like depravity and just foolishness that you go to until you experience it. I remember sitting there thinking, "What the heck am I doing?" It was scary. I don't know about anybody else, but stuff like that is scary. Just committing acts like that is scary, which is why I never, unfortunately, you know, no, I didn't mind robbing the drug dealers. You beat, yeah, you know what I mean. I ain't mind robbing them. What you gonna do? You gonna call the cops? You don't know me. You don't know who I am. I had to like scoop. We had to set up, but um, got locked up, and then I got like I got 2 5-year sentences running concurrent, and they put me in like a club fed situation. Because I was a non-violent offender. I never got locked up for anything violent. You know, um, so it was like I was working in the community. You wear your own clothes. I had a job in the community. It was like sleepaway camp for like men, like for young adult men. If you were older, they put you somewhere else. But yeah, it wasn't like violent. It wasn't, one guy embezzled like $109,000 out of Keene University, which used to be Keene College back then. I don't want to name his name. You can Google it. Another guy, he ran. He got like basically he somehow scammed $51 million out of some Wall Street like firm. Him and his co-defendant were in the same jail as me. They ain't get all the money back, and the restitution is far less than what they got. It's far less than 51 million. Um, I know all this because the one guy, he was, it was two guys. One guy would look at me like, it was kind of like a hierarchy. Like he had embezzlers, they were kind of up here. And then like the dope boys were like down here. The non-violent dope boys were like down here. But like if like embezzlement and like white collar crimes and stuff like that was up here, and all the dope stuff was like down there. If you sold dope, you were like a white dude who sold meth, and they were like, "Oh, he's cool," But like that's how the hierarchy was, man. You know, but it's like a level one minimum custody. It's like club fed, man. That's where I was. I was like club fed, you know. Um, but I would surprise them because they would look at us like we were like common thugs. And I'd be walking in there singing Joni Mitchell. He's like, "Where do you learn that from?" I'm like, "What are you talking about? Black people don't listen to Joni Mitchell." Or like, one dude would like, you know, one dude, his last name was Kravitz. I was like, Lenny Kravitz. And he looked at me funny. I'm like, "What?" He goes, "You said Mrs. Kravitz." He's talking about a character on Bewitched, the nosy neighbor, Mrs. Kravitz. I said, "No." I said, "Lenny Kravitz, bro." He's like, "Who's that?" I said, "You ever heard of Jeffersons?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "You know the black girl in Jeffersons that was married to the white guy?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Was she married a guy who was her lawyer, and his last name is Kravitz, Lenny Kravitz, and he named his son Lenny Kravitz?" He was like, "Oh," and I was like, "Dude," like it was just like no, it was little kind of. It was like little. He'd be like, "Oh," it was just like, dude, like you're in prison, bro. How are you acting like you're better than me and we're in the same place? You do know that. Now his co-defendant was mad cool. He was like real cool, and me and him used to play handball. We used to be murdering dudes, murdering them. Me and he was my partner. We used to be like we used to be murdering dudes. I'm telling you, killing them on the handball court. And then me and him got to talking. He was like, "What you in here for? Drugs?" I was like, "Yeah." He was like, "Yeah." He's like, "No offense, a lot of these black guys, that's kind of whatever." And we just kind of like, I didn't get mad. I was like, "Yeah, that's what it is," you know. White dudes, and that's kind of like the joke in the in the jail in the prison I was in. It was like the white dudes that embezzled their grandma's savings, and the black dudes are selling drugs to their parents and stuff. You know what I mean? Like that's what it is. You know what I mean? So, um, um, but um, but yeah. Um, and I don't like to ask people what they're in here for, so he just volunteered it. He's like, "Yeah, you hear such and such and such and such." And it was like vaguely, it was like some Wall Street something. It was like vaguely. He goes, well, that was us. I was like, and I was like, oh, okay. So then me and him got to talking, and we got to talking, and we got to talking, and you're locked up with the same dudes. We're in different dorms. I'm on the B side, he's on the A side. We have different jobs. I have like I don't know what he was doing. He was doing like groundskeeping. I was on shore detail, so I was like at the beaches. Sometimes we go fishing and all that stuff. But he like had grounds. He was like, yeah, I'm cool, you know. He was like, I get a suntan. I'm chilling. You know, plus we had weights, we had volleyball, we had handball, we had basketball, we had football, we had baseball, like softball. We had, indoor, outdoor weights. We had a track. We had all that stuff. So, um, but, um, so me and him got to talking finally one time. And he was like, yo, man, we embezzled. He straight up, he was like, man, we got like $51 million. I was like, really? He was like, I was like, what do you got to pay back? And he told me. I was like, that's not bad. I was like, did they get all the money back? And he looked me dead in my eye. I was like, no. And I was like, I didn't ask him nothing else. I was like, oh, snap. How you gonna spend it? Cause you know the government gonna be watching them. How you gonna spend it? So this was years ago. I'm assuming he found a way to spend it, or he just moved out the country, or something. I don't know, man. But yeah, yeah. Um, then there was another dude in there. He was a dean of a college. He embezzled money out of the college. Um, Robert. Oh, it's in the paper. Robert Danskin. It's in the paper. It's like yeah, Robert Danskin. Um, you could Google that. Um, then you had a correctional officer who is a sheriff's officer who was selling drugs, got in a gunfight, shot in the knee, all that. Like he wow. Then you had another guy who was a correctional officer. The dude who was a guard, nobody knew until he left. The dude who was the correctional officer, he taught me a lot of Afro Cuban stuff. He used to call me Alatunje. But he was like, I was doing something. I can't remember what it was. They had like a laundry area under the weight, where the weight area was, and they used to have these big barrels of detergent in big blue barrels. And I used to take I order some drumsticks online, and I would play on them. You know, I have one barrel here, one barrel there, one barrel there, and I would just get my hands warmed up. And he came down. I guess he heard me, and he came down, and he was like, "I was wondering who's putting the dents in the tops of those barrels." He's like, "You been down here doing that?" I'm thinking like, "What's this getting him mad? Like, is he about to what's up?" So, but I'm like, I'm trying to read him. He was like, "Yo, let me see you play." I was like, "Oh, it's one of them type things." So I start messing around. He was like, "Yo, you dope, bro." Yeah, he said, "Man, you play like this dude Alatunje. You ever hear him?" I was like, "Nope." He was like, and he started teaching me his stuff. So eventually, me and him would just